It's John Pollock here alongside Jimmy Korderas. We are coming out of the Royal Rumble event from Sunday night, taking place in San Antonio, Texas at the Alamo Dome. Lots to discuss from this Royal Rumble event. We will start with the Royal Rumble match. It was maybe a few surprises with the 30th entrant being Roman Reigns, but ultimately Randy Orton wins the Rumble. And Jimmy, this was a show that I feel that there were people that were maybe upset with certain outcomes or directions. And to me, it was, they're not crazy about the direction they're going. But if you understand where the lineup is shaping up for WrestleMania, they did quite a lot on this show to advance all of those stories, and Randy Orton winning, when you kind of break down all the different options, and we kind of discussed this on the Law, he probably did make the most logical choice to eventually lead to this Bray Wyatt match that everyone expects for Mania.
Exactly. What people are forgetting, and this is unique this year as opposed to other years, it's not going Royal Rumble, a pay-per-view in between, and then a break into WrestleMania. There is two branded pay-per-views before this. One of them is the SmackDown pay-per-view, which is Elimination Chamber, and who's to say that Bray Wyatt doesn't emerge from Elimination Chamber with the title, and we get that eventual match against Randy Orton. And people will say, well, then it's like John Cena's Ric Flair tying 16-time title reign is only 2 weeks long. But in the context of the story, depending on how it plays out, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't like the idea of hot potatoing the title, but at the same time, depending on how the story unfolds, you know, the end game, getting to where you want to go.
Yeah, and I guess, we'll see when the whole card shapes up for WrestleMania where everyone is slotted, but as I said last week, I really felt watching that AJ Styles John Cena match. It was fantastic on Sunday night. That will probably be one of the best WWE matches we see this year. I think that could have been the WrestleMania match. I think that just tying the record, you can make such a big deal out of that, and then a further chase down the road to break that record is a possibility. So we will see what the plans are for both of them. Certainly many expect AJ Styles to somehow end up with Shane McMahon, and I think then we can look at where John Cena is and whether Styles and Cena could have been saved a few months, because that to me could have closed WrestleMania. I think that could have been as big as Lesnar and Goldberg will probably be come WrestleMania, but we will see. Just your impressions of the Rumble overall from Orton winning. I know people were critical that Roman Reigns was here, but if you were expecting people to be negative on an Orton finish, I thought they did a pretty clever thing with Reigns, because, I mean, they are very much putting Reigns in this light, that this turn is more likely than ever. The fact that he came out in that 30th entrant, that reaction could not have been a surprise. And now you're going to have him feud with The Undertaker going into WrestleMania. I think there's only one way to cast Roman Reigns here.
Absolutely, and I think he would absolutely flourish as a heel in this sense. And it's almost like going into that Rumble match, you knew as soon as the number 30 hit and his music hit and the boos started, you knew that anyone but Reigns' mentality was going to overtake this Rumble. So in that sense, like you said, John, it was brilliant, strategic, eliminating by the WWE having you knew there was going to be a little bit of a backlash having an old-timer. I can't believe Randy Orton's an old-timer. But having an old-timer like Randy Orton winning the Rumble and having a backlash to that, but kind of counteracting that by having him eliminate the guy they definitely don't want to win the Rumble.
And that's where you look at all the different pieces of this puzzle, because it becomes a lot clearer after the Rumble. You look at options like Bill Goldberg winning, for instance. Well, then it's kind of a moot point to have him on the Fastlane show, which I think everyone expects he goes for the title at Fastlane. Lesnar winning is really against that story where all of a sudden Lesnar gets a title match and you'd come out of it teasing him being in line for either Owens or then he's in. I think they want Lesnar chasing Goldberg to get that match, to get his revenge. So you take him out. Jericho winning would suppose that him and Owens is a title match at WrestleMania, which I don't think will be the case. So when you look at, I didn't want Randy Orton to win, well, then who was your next best option for building up that WrestleMania match? I mean, that kind of eliminates options when you're thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, and when you look at the big matches that we assume are going to take place, like the Roman Reigns Undertaker, that match itself does not need a title to make that match any bigger. Goldberg, Brock Lesnar does not need a title to make that match any bigger. Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton, which is the direction we seem to be heading, could benefit from it being a title match. Same with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens going into WrestleMania who his opponent's going to be. I still say it could be Jericho because, again, here's Jimmy's fantasy booking going on again. Somewhere between now and maybe Fastlane or at Fastlane. Maybe we get that Goldberg-Kevin Owens match at Fastlane. Brock Lesnar somehow prevents Goldberg from winning the title, setting up their match for WrestleMania. But maybe Jericho has a U.S. title defense there, and Kevin Owens tries to help him out in retaining his title, ends up costing him the title, and Jericho says, well, you cost me my title, I'm coming for yours.
Yeah, there's definitely...
I mean, there's so many...
There's different options. I mean, they seem to be... I mean, they don't want to show any vulnerability right now to Goldberg and just making him invincible at this point. How did you feel they handled the interaction of Goldberg and Lesnar, where, I mean, it was Goldberg just getting the best of Lesnar again. Spear, quick elimination. I think that surprised many people. Did you like it? Did you think it was harmful to Lesnar at all? What did you feel about that particular combination?
It's kind of like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But at the time when I saw it, I thought, man, this is bloody brilliant. I mean, like it's kind of like planting that seed that Goldberg has his freaking number, and and Brock just can't get over on him. And they plant that seed, and Brock's like facial reaction on the outside told a hell of a story, and the fact that he didn't retaliate kind of tells another story. So in that sense, I thought it was great. Some fans will view it as being a step backwards for Brock. I think it's going to be a step forward as the story unfolds going into Fastlane.
Yeah, I think that Lesnar is scheduled for a ton of Raws going into WrestleMania. Like he'll be almost a weekly presence on Raw, which tells me like you cannot just do the promo every week and stand there. I think he is going to have to kill some people on Raw and really build them up. And then WrestleMania is Lesnar at his best going against this unstoppable monster who has stopped Lesnar at every turn. And I didn't really have that much of an issue with it at all. I think that they have done a remarkable job with Bill Goldberg of making him look like this unstoppable monster that is now overshadowing the other monster in Brock Lesnar. And that, to me, that could be the closing match at WrestleMania. It would not surprise me at all if it becomes the title match because it does feel like the top program in terms of interest going into WrestleMania. And you can look at Survivor Series as, man, how could they do that to Lesnar? But to me, it's you're telling a lengthier story, and Lesnar triumphing over this guy will probably do a whole lot to him based on this big build and this chase to stop this guy.
And for everybody who's worried about the rebuilding of Brock Lesnar, how does he get his heat back? Does everybody remember back, 2 Monday nights ago, where everybody forgot about the minute and 26 seconds in about a minute and 26 seconds? That's all it took for them to forget that he lost to Goldberg in a short amount of time just by that opening segment on Raw. So he's that rare performer that stuff like this will not hurt.
Any other observations from the Rumble that you liked, disliked, in terms of just the layout of the Rumble match?
I think it made sense because, like any story, you want to build towards the end, and it seemed like they were saving a lot of the big names for the end for a multitude of reasons. A, the anticipation of these guys entering. B, the length of time you'd want some of these guys in the ring, like no offense to The Undertaker and Goldberg and guys like that, keeping their time in the ring limited was a smart move. There felt like there were some lulls in the match, which,
I think in the middle, that was kind of where I thought they could have maybe had Brock come in a bit earlier because there definitely was that downtime in the middle where you're realizing all the big names that they were just going to back end the Rumble with, and that's where the match was going to peak for, with all the big names coming in with all due respect to the middle of the road guys that I don't think many had their picks of to win the actual Rumble.
They were even left out of the field portion of the betting pool. But anyways, really quickly too, they appeased the audience with the Ty Dillinger at 10. I'm just glad that it didn't overtake the entire Rumble, and I just feel bad for Ty Dillinger now because that really did nothing for him.
There was no angle shot with him. There was no suggestion of a reason to come back to Raw or SmackDown. Do you think that he's right back in NXT, or do you see? I think at best he's going to have a kind of small role on one of the shows. I don't see him being a prominent focal point on either show. Nor did I think anyone expected that. But yeah, there was really nothing where you were left where. You had your Maven spot, for lack of a better term, something big for your appearance. Dillinger was he was there for the entrance.
Right, and for that reason, I'm glad that guys like Samoa Joe didn't come up. Unless you have a definite set plan for him and a big plan for him, I think he needs a big plan. Then
I think they have a big plan.
I think so too, but I'm glad that it wasn't the Rumble because that's telling a different story. And for those complaining about Nakamura not showing up in the Royal Rumble, the night before he did the angle where he dislocated his patella. Mm-hmm. And so now we're just going to throw that away and say,
yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, well, he's okay now. He's in the Rumble. Come on, guys. But anyway.
Let us also discuss the title matches. First of all, John Cena defeats AJ Styles. It was a fantastic match. Mm-hmm. I think most people enjoyed this more than the SummerSlam match, which that was very well received last August. I personally thought this was the better match if you're comparing the two. There was just something different about this match where I felt they got more out of the near falls. I thought they were paced a bit better. I really loved that Super AA off the second turnbuckle and the look on Cena's face, like this smug, I've got him. And the kick out was all that much better with that kick out from AJ Styles. But I just thought they did. These two have outstanding chemistry together. It was a fantastic match. Before the bell even rang, this crowd viewed this as the main event. They were just buzzing for this match before it even began. So, man, you can't fault anything in terms of the atmosphere here. No. My only thing I hope is that damn promo I railed on last week from Cena. I hope on Tuesday he comes out on SmackDown and he acknowledges AJ was always at my level. And in fact, after losing 3 times to him, I questioned if I was at his level. And I had to get into his head. And I had to come at him hard last week and go the psychological route, which is what I don't typically do. And give Styles his due as his toughest opponent. Instead of last week where it was, you're not even at the level below me. That Cena almost says that he had to go that route to get into his head because he's failed 3 times against this guy. I
actually kind of like that. See, somebody should be... I don't know if anybody does write Cena's promos, but if anybody should, it could be you. But anyway, I like that. I like that approach. And in the traditional sense, the babyface, as Cena's supposed to be, usually puts over the heel as a worthy competitor, and that's where we saw that little bit of a change from John Cena.
It was such a great departure last week, where you just negated all these past wins that this guy has over you, and just ran him down. That it almost was this scenario where like AJ has to win this match to to not validate Cena's claims. So I hope that is kind of addressed on Tuesday. Like Cena was actually in doubt here because this guy has done what no one else has. He's beat him 3 straight times, and Cena doesn't know if he can beat him.
Yeah, and going back to the match itself, I thought the match for a WWE match, and I know people have asked me to compare the Okada Omega match to this one, in which
it's hot debate, Jimmy.
It's a hot debate, but you can't compare the two because there are 2 different presentations that both were excellent in different styles and presented in different ways in front of a different audience. So you can't. I love both of them for different reasons. You know what I mean? But these guys, like you said, there's that chemistry there between these two, and I've said it 100 times. John Cena is able to adapt to anybody he's in the ring with, and JBL calling him Big Game John is just that fits. And to me, right now, still to this day, with all due respect to all the guys in New Japan and everybody else, I still think AJ Styles is the best wrestler on the planet.
Yeah, he was outstanding in this match. Cena was great in the match as well. It was a fantastic match. As I said, I think this will probably be one of the best matches you see in the WWE this year. Mm-hmm. And now Cena has the title. This sets up the Elimination Chamber, which Tuesday night, I assume, will have all the participants. They've already announced Styles is in the chamber, so we know that. And then I guess 4 others will be named. And they've only got 2 weeks to build this up, so I imagine the bulk of that card will be known after SmackDown.
Yep.
I think I don't see Randy Orton in that match. No, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
None whatsoever.
I mean, they have done that in the past where the Rumble winner cashes in before WrestleMania, but I feel that Orton should be in something else. Maybe him and Luke Harper at... You have that unfortunate problem where the February or March for Raw, you have that in-between pay-per-view. You got to keep the Rumble winner busy with something, and Harper is kind of in that spot now.
Right. But filling out the other 4 slots, AJ Styles, as you said, I could see a Baron Corbin fitting in nicely in in the chamber match. Bray Wyatt, of course, so that's 4. You need 2 more participants. You probably won't get Dean Ambrose because it's a SmackDown pay-per-view, so you'll have to have an Intercontinental title match.
That could eliminate. I mean, you could go Ambrose and Miz for the IC title, or one of them ends up in.
And you got your bump machine and Dolph Ziggler, who can be in that match.
Right, Ziggler's probably in that, and maybe they throw in usually in those chamber matches they throw in a guy that maybe isn't always associated with the title picture, and that could be an Apollo Crews. Just as kind of the blue chip guy.
We're on the same wavelength.
There you have it. So that could be your chamber match, and I don't think anyone would be stunned if Bray Wyatt wins the title in that match. No. And the big question is what happens with John Cena. If you are putting your Booker's cap on,
It's on. Final 3 in the Elimination Chamber. Bray Wyatt, Baron Corbin, John Cena. John Cena manages to eliminate Baron Corbin as he turns his attention to Bray Wyatt. Before Baron Corbin exits the chamber, we have an end of days on John Cena.
Gets his win back.
Well, doesn't get his win back. He's already eliminated.
Oh,
so it's
he's
post
out.
elimination.
Okay,
gets
gotcha.
his heat back by giving the end of days to John Cena. Bray Wyatt picks the bones with a Sister Abigail, and he's your new champion. And you set up your John Cena Baron Corbin at WrestleMania.
All right. Well,
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I don't know if that's the direction, but if somebody needs to get elevated to the next level by facing a John Cena at WrestleMania, Baron Corbin could benefit. And he's already lost to him now twice. This would be twice if this happens.
Right.
And can you imagine him getting his win back at WrestleMania against John Cena?
Yeah. I really feel that if Nakamura was coming up, that would be the best possible combination for WrestleMania, would be Cena and Nakamura. I do not think that is happening. But that atmosphere with AJ, I think that would be replicated with Cena and Nakamura at WrestleMania. It's a match I'd love to see. I would love to see that, and it makes Nakamura instantly.
I know a lot of
win or lose. And I think Cena would be willing to lose that one.
Yeah, and a lot of people are mentioning that they'd love to see Cena Joe.
Yep.
Which I think would be also very interesting.
Yep. Yeah. So John Cena's our wild card for WrestleMania, where he lands. On the Raw side, Kevin Owens kept the Universal title, beating Roman Reigns. This one was very strange, Jimmy, because we had on Monday, it was announced by Charlie Caruso to Owens that it's also a no disqualification match, which didn't prevent Chris Jericho from disclosing that he had brass knuckles on him. I don't think there would be anything against this. Mr. Official here. I mean, was there anything heelish that Jericho even did by having these brass knuckles in a no DQ match? What would stop someone from just bringing the brass knuckles out for his entrance and saying, I will be using these?
That would be refreshing, actually, to have someone actually say it right from the get-go. But
the no DQ kind of contradicts the heel in the cage that's somehow hidden something.
Right. The old way of doing things was it not being. I guess the new no DQ was to give the match a completely different feel from the AJ Cena match, and give them a lot of creative liberties to fight to the outside, which I didn't know no DQ means no countout as well. They should have let me know that too as well. Apparently that's changed. It
Yes, rules are subject to change.
Subject to change, just like the card. But that's the only thing. If you're going to be a heel, it should be cheating behind a referee's back. That's what heels do. And if you make it a no DQ match, then you can cheat all you want. So
not cheating.
It's not cheating.
They had a pretty good match, I thought. Braun Strowman getting involved, leading to the finish. That looks to spin off Reigns with Braun Strowman. That's probably the fast lane event, and then Reigns can, from there, go on to Taker. What did you think about just the layout of this overall and keeping the title on Owens?
I thought it was the right move. I thought the match itself was really good. Especially in a pay-per-view like this, where it of course came later, the AJ Styles John Cena match, but having 2 title matches of that quality on the same show is very rare.
Yeah,
and I thought it really
this kind of got overshadowed by the Cena Styles match, but it was great in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, another match presented in a different way, different style. Both guys were spot on. There were some spots in there. Another guy who doesn't get enough credit, Roman Reigns, for his timing, his selling, and all that kind of stuff, doesn't get enough credit for that. I think the right decision was to keep the title on Kevin Owens, and again, we'll see who his opponent is going to be at WrestleMania. I'd like to see him. I hope Goldberg. Yeah, as much as I like Bill Goldberg, as a person, I don't want to see him carry the title into WrestleMania. I know it would make the match with Brock Lesnar that much more important, but Kevin Owens needs that title at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and that, jumping ahead here, that main event, should it happen at Fastlane, that's a very tricky match to put together. Because are you going to have Owens, who he's your champion, are you going to have him go 50-50 and do something that Brock couldn't do with Goldberg? Or are you just going to have Goldberg run through this champion in 2 minutes and win the title? It becomes a very tricky match to put together if you don't have... I mean, there's options you could do where Jericho's the referee. Goldberg has to overcome the numbers advantage, have a sneaky way for the heels to get the heat on Goldberg, and he has to overcome. But it's not a simple match to put together, especially a title match that, the prime focus is getting Goldberg and Lesnar ready for WrestleMania, and not so much this is a setup for that and what you do with Owens in that situation.
Right, and like you said, you run the risk of
you don't want Owens to be able to outshine Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. That's the risk you're running right there if this match takes any length of time. And then the other risk you're taking, do you run the risk of having a very short main event because Goldberg appeared looking like he's going to run over Kevin Owens in the similar fashion that he did to Brock, but only have Brock come out and prevent it from happening to set up their WrestleMania match? Now you've got another main event match that went 2 minutes, so that could alienate a lot of people.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's an interesting match just to see the actual layout of it. Other highlights from the show, Neville winning the Cruiserweight title from Rich Swann. I give these two a lot of credit because they were put in the dead zone in between those two title matches. Crowd was really checked out of this, but I thought they had a fine match. And Neville winning the Cruiserweight title, I don't really have any issue with. We talked about whether this would be forgotten after the show. Maybe it was, but Neville is the focal point of the Cruiserweight division, and he's been great. And I thought these two worked really hard, even though it was kind of treated as an intermission, which the audience is going to do for matches when they're sitting there for 5.5 hours.
Absolutely. Absolutely the right decision to put the title on and put the focus of the Cruiserweight division on Neville. To me, he's head and shoulders above everybody else in that division right now as far as overall character development and the whole bit. And
promos. Who would have pegged Neville to be the top promo guy amongst the cruiserweights, which I feel he is.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of surprising. A lot of people would say that maybe was not his forte a little while back.
It is now.
Similar to AJ Styles. A lot of people would say, his one drawback is his on the mic, and now that he's found his niche as a heel, it seems to work for some guys. Maybe there's a pattern here. AJ Styles heel, great promos now. Neville heel, great promos now. It seems to be a pattern. Maybe it'll help Roman Reigns if he goes heel.
You can only imagine.
We can only imagine.
Quickly on the women and the direction on the Raw side. Charlotte beat Bayley clean with natural selection on the edge of the apron, then rolled her in, got the win. And then we also had Nia Jax just destroy Sasha Banks and beat her clean. Where do you see the women's picture, both for Fastlane and possibly looking ahead to WrestleMania here? I mean, clearly you would expect Charlotte goes into WrestleMania as champion, but what kind of combinations do you see?
It's going to be interesting. I think what we're going to see probably at WrestleMania is another multi-person match for the women's title.
Yeah.
It's going to be probably...
I thought maybe three-way, but the way they're handling Nia could be four.
Yeah. And obviously she's going to be the dominant female from the way she's being booked right now, especially with running over Sasha Banks the way she did in the pre-show. Bayley... I really like Bayley. For some reason, the connection that she had with the audience in NXT hasn't translated as well on the main roster. And I'm wondering if a lot of that has to do with, again, we're talking...
Poetry.
Yes, exactly. That kind of... not a lot of people into poetry. It's a very niche market, the poetry market.
It's not in motion, so to speak, with the audience.
I like that Charlotte keeps addressing the fact that she's just a fangirl, whatever you want to call it. But her responses have not been anything to write home about. So I think that's holding her back a little bit. Other than that, I think there's a bright future for her. It hasn't happened yet, and I think that's a lot of the problem is her presentation on the mic.
And I guess the final thing we can discuss was on the pre-show, we both had Karl Anderson and Luke Gallows win the tag titles. This time we had two referees, which could not overcome still having a finish where they capitalize on one referee being knocked out. And then we also had the women's six-person tag as well on the kickoff show. I guess the notable thing, Anderson and Gallows winning the tag titles. maybe somewhat surprising. And then you had Cesaro and Sheamus gang up on the New Day and eliminate all three at the same time during the Rumble. So I don't know if that becomes kind of a contenders program of where we go. Any final thoughts on those matches?
A little surprised too that the club emerged with the titles, but at the same time, they needed something. They need another shot in the arm. Maybe this is it. I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here. As I like to do, it's my golf analogy. Like, okay, we hit it down the fairway, pretty good, 280, 300 down the middle. Now it's your pro shot. Are we going to put it in the bunker? Or are we going to land on the green? It's all what your next. It's all up to your next shot, and that's what we're waiting for with Gallows and Anderson. And two very talented guys who got over well in Japan. It just sometimes that transition in what works in Japan doesn't necessarily work in North America.
As long as we're talking about the club with golf balls and not Big E's, I think they are at least advancing towards something more productive.
Yes.
So that was the Royal Rumble. I thought a really good show. I mean, the 2 title matches were great. The Rumble, I think you can look at the different layout and such. I thought that the winner was kind of where you have to look at the direction of where they are going. So, I mean, it was disappointing to some. For others, it was just, when you look at where Mania is going, did they advance the story? And I think they did with Orton. We'll see.
It's kind of like in hindsight. Once it plays out, then you go, now I know. See, things happen for a reason.
So we'll be back real quick because Elimination Chamber is only 2 weeks away, where you can kind of piece together where the card is, and probably after SmackDown this week, you'll know the bulk of that show, which is coming up. And then Fastlane is the Raw pay-per-view, which is March the 5th before WrestleMania 33, which is fast approaching. And given the length of the Royal Rumble, this could be the first all-day WrestleMania, which I guess they did one year. That all-day one in 2000, but that was all a pre-show. Maybe we'll get an all-day of matches.
I totally
UK guys, cruiserweights, everyone. They're going to start at 8 a.m. They're going to run right through till midnight. They'll have an overrun, and we will get every match conceivable that the WWE can promote under one roof.
Can you imagine what's going to go happen?
I guess there is no roof.
Well, not in Orlando, but wherever access is going to be, it'll probably be indoors, and I'm sure there'll be a lot going on there. That's for sure.
The first all-day WrestleMania.
All-day WrestleMania.
That's where we're going with an 8-hour pre-show.
Yeah,
the kickoff.
WrestleMania 24/7.
Oh, my goodness. We're getting there. All right. Go to liveaudiowrestling.com for all the latest and what is happening as well. You can tune into The Lost Sunday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen on TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 1410 Vancouver, and online at liveaudiowrestling.com. And if you are in Canada, you can catch this man on Aftermath each and every week on Sportsnet 360.